Good morning. Woo, we got some people awake this morning. Good morning, everybody. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Humanist Society of Greater Phoenix. My name is Alex Segment. I'm the president of the organization. Just want to say hello and welcome to you all. Thank you so much for attending this morning and showing your smiling faces amongst us. So we do appreciate it. Couple of clearinghouse things. Who here enjoyed breakfast? Yes. Wasn't that awesome? Thank you so much to our breakfast crew. That I saw that Pete and Henry were here at 6:30 this morning on the cameras, and then we had a few other volunteers that helped along as well. So thank you so much for all those who brought not only casseroles but even pancakes. Wow, we had pancakes this morning. Yes, good stuff. So I see a number of new faces that I have not seen before. Who's here for the very first time? Please raise your hand. Welcome. Thank you so much for attending with this morning. So we have a number of really cool stuff that's going to be happening soon. In a couple of weeks, we've got our annual solstice party, which will be installing the 2025 board and having a good time here in the community center, trying to see what we can do to help continue our funding for the rest for the next year as well. We've got some really cool stuff coming up for the 2025 board, so keep your eye on all of our social media pages, including things like Meetup, where you can see all of our major events and even our minor events. We've got some really interesting stuff coming up. Let's see here. Oh yes, where did he go? Don, where did you go? I don't see Don. Don Raker. Oh, there you are. Sorry. No wonder. I have no periphery, apparently. So one of our traditions here is to do something known as the Humanist Minute. What we talk about is what humanism means to us, what we can do to help spread the ethics and values of humanism in the world around us. And we have a veteran member here who's going to give us a Humanist Minute. Welcome, Don Raker.
Can you hear me? I still can't hear you.
Well, I was reading this book on rock art, and I ran into a short paragraph that really kind of set me off. Okay, we're here in the desert.
Sound coming from me. Let me make sure
rain
it's not
and
on
water
my end.
is very important for
Not
us.
muted.
And some of the folks around here used to sing and dance and beat on drums and pass rattlesnakes around to make it rain. Now, here's some folks in South Africa. They have a different method. Okay, the chief sends an ox to the shaman, I guess, that is spotless. It is killed in the corral of the Yalo rainmaker, and the skin is prepared. A human being is killed, and in his skull is put the fat of the ox. Of course, that makes sense. The rainmaker goes to live in a hut by himself. He covers himself with the hide of the ox and smears the hide with the fat from the human skull. Okay, it's important that his shack has lots of grass around it, because a snake comes by night and licks the fat off the hide. Of course it would. Now, it's important for the grass to be tall so that no one sees the snake. Otherwise, that'd mess it up, you know. And the name of the snake is Intlathu. You know Intlathu, don't you? And after he licks the fat off of the hide, it rains. Now, why did this annoy me? Okay, I am very grateful that we have a society here where most of the people think that the scientific method and results and proof and things like this are probably the best way to understand the world and deal with it. Now, in the next few years, we're going to have the ox and the snake and the skull people are going to run our country, including our healthcare system. So my advice is, don't get sick in the next few years. And if you're a woman, don't get pregnant. RFK Jr. and the local party boss will be supervising your doctor. So that's it.
Thank you, Don. So, one of the things we also like to do is make sure that we silence our mobile phones if we can. And then I know that our wonderful property director, David Kosho, will be giving us a short little announcement, and then we'll move on to introductions.
Good morning. We are doing a field trip, and call it that, over to the Botanical Gardens this coming Tuesday. At 3 o'clock, we'll be there for until after dark, see the lights, all that kind of nifty stuff. We have a group that is coming together here and carpooling over. That is full. If you would like to join us, drive on over, roughly 3 o'clock, over at the Botanical Garden. 3:30. And join us. We're gonna, they do have a cafe there. We will be able to get some things to eat and drink. The entry is free on Tuesday, and the only thing you'll spend is what you spend eating or drinking.
And David, they need to do it beforehand. You need to call the Desert Botanical Gardens to see if they have spaces available. That's the way they do the free day every second Tuesday of every month.
What Marty was saying is that you need to call in advance to make reservations for the Desert Botanical Gardens, and she's also saying that happens every second Tuesday of every month. Correct? Correct?
They're not having Tuesday coffee at Jared's.
No Tuesday coffee at Jared's. So that's an update for what's happening next, which will be an update from our fabulous former program director, now retired retired program director, Catherine Patterson.
My badge now says I am the AV system EMT. Just want to quickly profile some upcoming activities before I introduce our wonderful speaker. As always, I'd like to mention our blood drive that is coming up. The next one is January 5th. And actually, if I put my readers on, this will get a lot easier. Also, we have our annual winter solstice event coming up, and this year it is actually on the solstice. That's where we get together, and swear in our new board for the new year and look back upon the previous year and have fellowship together. And Bruce Stiles has offered to be the human sacrifice. And also, I'd like to mention that we have a monthly volunteer mutual aid and solidarity team meeting this coming Saturday at noon here at the center. As always, I'm going to nag you, remind you, beg you to check out all of our activities on Meetup. There's lots of them, and I am not going to use up all of Jeannie's talk time with mentioning these. So please, please join us. And unfortunately, Jeannie is not with us today in person, but she is with us on Zoom. We certainly will miss having her energy here, and yet I am sure that the reason we have like nearly twice as many people here today is because we have people joining us from secular AZ. And we've all had time to process what happened last month, and now it's time to maybe get a little fired up about it. So in any case, Jeannie's biography. She's got a bachelor's degree in human communication and history from the Hugh School of Human Communications at ASU, and she's got a master's in education also from ASU. She has over 11 years of experience teaching in Maricopa County's public schools, In 2011, Jeanne completed the Emerge Arizona program, and in 2012 became a school board member of the Creighton School District. She served as board president from 2016 through 2020. In 2020, Ms. Casteen, Jeanne, ran for Maricopa County School Superintendent and came within 12,000 votes of winning. She's been awarded the Arizona School Public Relations Association Award for Excellence in Advocacy and Political Contributions to Education, as well as the Arizona School Board Association's All Arizona School Member Award. She's a teacher, a mother, a former school board president, and the executive director for Secular AZ. See, t-shirt. If you don't belong, please consider becoming a member of Secular AZ. She is a public education advocate, avid camper, hiker, and lover of dogs. Please welcome one of my favorite speakers, Jeanne Casteen.
Well, hi, everybody. I am really disappointed that I could not be there today. Unfortunately, as probably many of you are, we're all dealing with aging parents, and so there was a slight accident, and now decisions need to be made. So I appreciate your grace. And also, because normally I have another monitor over here, so I can be a little bit more nimble. So I might have to be toggling back and forth. So I apologize in advance for my technological challenges today. So without further ado, I will just go ahead and make sure I can share my screen here. And there's my presentation. We're going to go ahead and share that. And can you all see it? Okay, I'm going to make it big. All right. I don't know if everybody here today knows about Secular AZ. I'm assuming probably most of you do, but for those of you who this might be your first time learning about Secular AZ, I'll tell you a little bit about who we are and what I'm going to be talking about today. Come on now, computer. There we go. Today, we're going to be talking about raging against the fascist machine. And this is not a drill. All right, so what Secular AZ does, and I wanted to include as many QR codes as I could so that you could kind of save or bookmark those tabs on your phone. I also shared a PDF format of this topic today with Kat, so you all will have access to that. We are a 501c3c4, a small group of atheists, agnostics, humanists, free thinkers got together in 2010, formed a C4, said we need to be lobbying at the state capitol, even though there was a supermajority at the time. They were far less radical and extreme, and you could actually, make some bipartisan progress. 3 years later, they opened up a C3 so that we could do more advocacy, education, legal work. So every donation that we receive goes directly to those programs that are becoming even more and more important with every passing day. We do not focus on candidates, although we are talking about possibly doing an endorsement program. We're very small. We have 3 staff members. We do not have a brick and mortar building. So there are some challenges there when it comes to being able to do all the things that we wish we could do. But as you can see, these are the issues that we focus on. I'm not going to read them to you because I'm pretty sure this crowd, everybody here knows how to read. We also, like I said, do advocacy at the Capitol and grassroots lobbying. We've really moved over more to grassroots lobbying, meaning those email alerts that you get during the legislative session or the notifications about what might be going on at your local school board meeting. We also participate and we sit at many different tables, both locally and nationally. We partner frequently with the big national groups like FFRF, Americans United, American Atheists. And then we also partner with other advocacy nonprofits like ACLU, Planned Parenthood, GLSEN, 1 in 10, you name it. And we try to make sure that we have a seat at the table to advocate for the various things that we do. Let's see, our legal department is hopping this year. Our legal director is Diane Post. Most of you probably know Diane Post. She's a legend in her own time. She also does a lot of work with the NAACP and other groups, but she files legal complaints. She kind of loves it. So honestly, if you know Diane, that doesn't surprise you. When she hears of a violation of the Establishment Clause, she is like a pit bull. You cannot get that bone out, right? So she normally deals with, I think she says about around 30 a year. And last year, I want to say it was nearly doubled. This year, it's not quite tripled, but she is really busy. We're always looking for legal help, and I'll get to that later in the discussion. And as many of you know, we have events both in person and virtual, and I'll share the events that we have coming up at the end of the year, or at the beginning of next year, I should say, with you. All right. Probably, I mean, I'm seeing some familiar faces or familiar names even just on the Zoom here. So I'm assuming most of you know about our Friday discussions. We have had themed discussions where we talk about secularism and incarceration, religious trauma and indoctrination, Christian nationalism and gun worship, what is the secular approach to helping those who are unhoused amongst us. We also added school board support over the last couple of years after the 2022 election. And because of my experience being on my local school board, it was truly one of the most rewarding professional experiences of my career. And I know ever since the Tea Party movement, after Obama got elected, they formed the Tea Party, and the goal was to take over as many local school board and even city council races, because that is a springboard to get into higher office. And they did it again in 2022. Very sad, or I'm sorry, in 2022, 2020, and 2024. Very sadly, school board member in Scottsdale, an extremist school board member, defeated an award-winning 2016 Teacher of the Year, Senator Christine Marsh, and that one really broke my heart. So you can see how folks will use it as a springboard to get in. Additionally, Mesa Public Schools, Rachel Walden, who's notoriously anti-LGBTQ, has made it onto the Arizona Corporation Commission. So 2 years and bam, they're off and running, and we're going to see a lot more of that. Let's see. We also have a Substack publication. Part therapy, part information, because after the 2022 election, when we started to see some real extremist takeovers of school boards, again, Rachel Walden in Mesa suing her own district over trans inclusive policies in Title IX. Heather Rooks out in Peoria suing her district because she doesn't know how to read in her head, like read silently. She insisted on opening the meeting and her public comments with prayer, and we filed a complaint, and then she decided to sue. They will also sue through the federal courts, because that way it'll go right to SCOTUS. So something to consider as well. So we provide those updates, legislative updates, legal updates, current events. We're always looking for contributors. My style of writing may not be for everybody, and we invite, I'm very snarky and I use a lot of memes. I did teach middle school for many years. So it's just the only, if I'm not laughing, I'm crying. So it's my own form of entertainment. And again, it might not be for everybody's taste. You may have seen just recently too, we've published one from our development director, who is an undocumented dreamer, who just got his, is completing the steps, and talking about the fear that he feels day to day. So you'll probably find something relevant in our Substack publication. Oops, sorry, got a little ahead of myself here. So I'm going to need to really quickly stop sharing my screen here. So again, I apologize. All right, there we go. So let me get back to my script here. So for some of you, you may have actually read my latest Substack, where I spoke about how society has embraced some very dystopian tropes of late. And for the last month or so, I've definitely been struggling with accepting the results. Not only was it a huge disappointment at the national level, but we slid backwards at the state and in some cases at our most local levels of government. But finally, I managed to go through all of the phases of grief. And I have been able to pull myself out of my despair because that's what they want us to do. They want us to freeze. When you think of fight, flight, freeze, it's a trauma response. And so I think a lot of us maybe froze last month as they considered all the promises that have been laid out in Project 2025 put forward by the Heritage Foundation, and the fact that the leader of the Heritage Foundation is now one of these cabinet picks. So with everything that's been happening, whether it's here in our elections, whether it's South Korea, Syria is, I'm watching so closely. It's just incredible, some of the things that are coming out of there. What's happened recently with Bolsonaro in Brazil, the current genocide happening in Sudan. We've got Ukraine, Israel and Palestine, and now we also have this dictator on day one regime of billionaires who are purchasing our government, essentially. We might possibly be living in the worst timeline ever. So you throw in ever increasing income disparity, the housing crisis, which is also caused by corporate greed and American individualism. We've got skyrocketing healthcare costs, which are also front and center on the news right now. The climate catastrophe, which we will not be able to escape at this point, and the loss of bodily autonomy and privacy for 50% of the population. So all of this, I know I'm so uplifting sometimes, aren't I? All of this, and 2025 is set up to be a perfect storm of autocratic chaos, in many cases driven by evangelical extremism and dominionist ideology. So to quote the late, great Carl Weathers, and let me go back to my screen share. Let's see, where are we? There we are. Share. So like I said, to quote the late, great Carl Weathers, baby, you got yourself a stew going. If you've ever watched Arrested Development, you get this reference. And it's not the kind of stew that I really want to eat. So I decided to, because I think a lot of us right now are looking for solutions. So I decided to, because I've been reading voraciously, over the last month. And I found this great article by Carol Cadwalders, and I'm not sure, I think it's a Welsh name, so I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's a Guardian article, How to Survive the Broligarchy. So she has coined this term of the broligarchy, and I'll explain what that is. We currently now have 14-ish billionaires as cabinet picks. We have folks who are sexual abusers or enablers. We have folks who have a history of financial fraud, of science denialism, of violence towards others or specifically towards women. And we have almost zero pushback from the GOP, except of course for Matt Gaetz, because nobody likes Matt Gaetz, even his own people. So yeah, we are going to be seeing some extreme measures, and they're already telling us what they're going to do. In fact, they were telling us before the election, but mainstream media didn't really do us any favors. And the fact that Elon Musk has spent $277 million, over $250 million, to essentially throttle progressive voices and to elevate extremist conspiracy theorists, white supremacists, neo-Nazis. I have fully removed myself from the Twitter. I call it shitter, like, because there's an X at the front and it just seems more appropriate. So I fully quit it. I am now on Blue Sky, and I cannot recommend getting onto Blue Sky enough. It feels like the old Twitter, and there is no hate speech allowed. Journalists, experts. I mean, if you want to see what is going on, because have y'all noticed? I don't know if you noticed, but I'm at my dad's house. I don't usually watch cable news. I think it's mostly garbage. And so my dad's got DirecTV, so I flipped through the channels, and Fox News, it is talking about how like great RFK Jr. is. There was like a whole thing about how great RFK Jr. was. And then on CNN, it was about how Giuliani used to be America's mayor. And I was like, where's the coverage of Syria? Well, there is none in American news media for the most part. It's very peripheral. BBC, flipped on BBC, Al Jazeera, there it is. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, but definitely be skeptical of mainstream media and check your sources. Locally, and I'm probably going to have to get back to my script here too. Locally, I'll talk a little bit about the House and the Senate. This QR code will take you to an amazing resource. CEBV, Civic Engagement Beyond Voting, does some of the most thorough, incredible work when it comes to covering our legislature. And this is a full list of the committees, who's in charge, who the leadership is, their contact information, you name it, you got it. Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't put in the Senate number because I'm not sure. I was looking to see if I could find. Anyway, sorry, getting ahead of myself. Sadly, this year, the Democrats lost some seats. We were poised to go from a 31-29 difference in the House to, a 30-30 split, or maybe even getting a 1-seat advantage. That did not pan out, despite the fact that the abortion initiative passed overwhelmingly. People either didn't vote in their down ballot races or voted for Republicans, which shows us that folks don't understand necessarily which side is promoting the policies that they favor. Because what we know is that they're already working in many different states and at the national level to figure out how to repeal these state laws, even though they told us this is about states' rights. It was never about states' rights. Or giving it back to the states. It was never about that. The Senate, if somebody knows and wants to shout it out there, please feel free to do so, but I can't really hear anything in the audience. I want to say it's 16-14, but I'm not sure. So I apologize for that. Again, my life has been kind of topsy-turvy lately. I want to talk a little bit about some leadership changes in the Arizona legislature. So let me again get back to my, sorry, hold on just a second. Here we go. So a few facts, fun facts about our new leadership in the House and the Senate. Locally, the House will be led by former evangelical youth pastor, my humanist and atheist friends, Steve Montenegro of LD 29 in Goodyear. He ran on border issues, since Goodyear is obviously a border town, and he is the first Latino speaker. So kudos to him for that accomplishment. You might remember him from a sexting scandal with a Senate staffer in 2017, because these folks are all the same. Now, Democrats, on the other hand, in the House will be led by Oscar de los Santos. He is from LD 11, which represents South Phoenix. And as far as I can tell, he has 0 sexting scandals. So that's good. Now, in the Senate, we have Senator Warren Peterson. He is in LD 14, represents Gilbert. He is known for his no-nonsense, decorum for thee, but not for me attitude. He's also a big proponent of dismantling public education at the local and national level. He also bears a striking resemblance to another elected official from Utah, albeit fictionally speaking, Bill Hendrickson. He's played by the late actor Bill Paxton. I'll show you what I mean here real quick. Again, I apologize. Normally I would be able to flow way more seamlessly throughout my presentation, but I am struggling. So just to show you, it's kind of uncanny. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Kind of like how former Senator Anthony Kern looks a lot like Mama Fratelli. Bill Peters or Warren Peterson, look at this. Is that uncanny? He looks so much like Bill Hendrickson from Utah, right? It's actually Bill Paxton, one of my favorite late great actors. So let's see what we got next here. Oh, I did want to, we can share this right now. I wish I could see people's hands, but I would just love to raise your hand if you've ever actually watched or attended a committee hearing meeting at the legislature, either in the House or in the Senate. For probably a lot of you, you've done that when we have our day at the Capitol. But this is how you can watch them. You can watch them from the comfort of your own home. They'll have a live feed and tell you when it's going to come on. And then you can look at archive meetings. I wish it was part of our curriculum in Arizona that people had to actually watch at least one committee hearing, because the behavior, the lack of decorum, the double standards, and the hypocrisy are just shocking. Your jaw will drop. You'll have to pick it up off the floor. All right, so let me now really quickly get back to my screen. Well, I'll just talk about leadership in the Senate on our side. And this is the thing that's going to really infuriate you when you go to watch a committee hearing, because Priya Sundaresan, who represents Tucson, I think it's LD 17, I'm not sure. She is an engineer. She is a lawyer, and she also is a natural resource economist. Probably one of the most brilliant minds that we have at the Capitol. And then when you see how she gets treated in committee and on the floor, you will be absolutely outraged. This is why I really think that people should have to watch this stuff. All right, let's talk a little bit about school board extremism. And again, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. They told us all about Project 25 or 2025. They told us last legislative session what they were hoping to get passed through the legislature. And already some of those same bills are coming back, including bills about pronouns and bathrooms, because, you know, a population that makes up less than like 1% of the population or 0.1% of the that's what really is I'm thinking of, not housing and being able to afford my rent and things like that. Excuse me. So moving on to school board stuff, the one that I watch the closest, because Peoria is this little microcosm of MAGA, extremism, Christian nationalism. There's been all kinds of events in Peoria, including at the city council level. Their mayor, Jason Beck, is a MAGA extremist. He owns a tactical company. He's well known for discriminating against folks in the LGBTQ community. And he donated heavily to flip the board in Peoria, and it flipped. Interestingly, we've got three, I would call it a 3-1-1 board, 3 being Anthony Kern's sister, Janelle Bowles, who has promised, by the way, to bring LifeWise Academy, which is a Christian curriculum, to the school district, the whole school district. And they already have, the Good News Clubs there. So folks, if anybody here is in the Peoria district with children, and they just happen to maybe belong to the Satanic Temple, and their kid wants to start, a Hail Satan club or an ASK club, which is the After School Science Club, please let me know if you can find somebody who's there, who's active in the community, and who's ready to stand up, go to board meetings, and figure out how to combat Christian nationalism for the sake of the children and for our future. They are going to. So the board, by the way, Janelle Bowles. We've got this guy, Jeff Toby, who says he's a cop, but he's not really. It's very confusing. There's a lot of truth stretching that goes on. And then the other one is Heather Rooks, the one that doesn't know how to read silently, and who loves attention. I predict that she's probably going to run. I think she's in LD 27 or 28, probably in 2 years. Watch. And then we've got Becky Proudfit, who is an active LDS member of her community. She's kind of a swing voter, I would say. She was one of them that voted against their own money, grant money that was free to them. That was a national grant because, mental health care is how we, how kids get, gender reassignment surgeries in school. That's truly what they think. And then the other one is poor, sweet Melissa Ewing, a wonderful lifelong educator, parent in the district, and she's about to be on the receiving end with a fan, and there's fecal matter coming right in her direction. So they're going to need a lot of help there. And this and this QR code here, it is a QR code for it's a little racy kind of language, but it's basically how to F up an a-hole school board. So there's some great tips in there about what you can do, like, engage tomorrow at the school board level. It will give you all the tips that you need. It will give school board members the tips that they need. They will bring back trans discrimination again. I predict too, here's another thing that's going to happen. They are going to start pushing, especially when they have a majority, they're going to probably start pushing to get their legal counsel changed so that it is somebody like Alliance Defending Freedom, what's the other one? Liberty First or First Liberty Legal, whatever they are, or if those individuals then have their own law firms. Just watch. If your school district is advocating to change their legal counsel and they are a MAGA school board, you can pretty much believe that that is the reason why they are doing it. They want a yes person who will interpret the Constitution with their evangelical extremist lenses. I predict that we're going to see an overreach of school board members. Last year, the legislature put forward a bill that would have mandated that school board members get keys and their own designated office and access basically to school buildings at any time, which then would mean that they could have access to employees and their information. Wildly dangerous stuff. And if you've done any reading of my Substack, the last thing you probably want is for Heather Rooks or Kim Fisher to be able to have an office at their district. And just imagine what that would do to morale and to the entire culture of the district. It's blatant overreach. So yeah, whatever you've been doing in the past few years, and I know that this group has probably done a lot, just quadruple it. As Tim Wall said during the campaign, we'll sleep when we're dead. And I was hoping I could at least get a little nap between now and the legislative session, but that's not going to happen. And we won't be able to sleep for the next 2 to 4 years. So if you are not signed up to RTS is the Request to Speak program. Now, because the GOP values public input and democracy so much, just kidding, they make it super impossible. They make it so hard for people to sign up. So it's very ableist. If you would like to get signed up, you have to go to the Capitol, but I will do it for you. I will do it for you. Our volunteers can do it for you. And then all you have to do is just change your password. But that way, once you get registered that first time, bam, you can go and you can register your thoughts on any bill that's moving through the House or the Senate. You need to call your reps. I know that it may not sway votes, but it provides a record. And it does sway votes in some cases, at both the state and the national level. Just recently, at the national level, there was a bill that would have, given carte blanche to anybody to say that an organization such as mine, any nonprofit, is an enemy of the state. We managed to block it. We're still waiting to find out, I think, what the Senate says, but your voice can matter. And some of these people are in purple districts and they know it. And they also know that their constituents are going to see some of the worst points and policies from Project 2025 in the next 2 years. So they are going to need to, answer to their constituents. I encourage you all to email your representatives and the people in the school district. Also, when you email folks that are on a governing board, like a school district or a school board or a city council, email everybody. Email everybody. don't exclude the person that you don't think is going to listen to you or that you think is already on your side, because that makes them think that they're more special than they really are, because they are a governing board. So think of it as one entity, send it off to everybody, send it to the superintendent, and send it to the secretary of the board. Also show up to meetings. Like I said, this little nifty guide here that I've put up, it's really great to give you point by point steps on how you can combat the nonsense that you're about to be just covered with. You can also join committees. Like if you have, if you have the time and energy and maybe the expertise to attend a budget committee or a curriculum committee or whatever, then you can do that. And because you better believe that the Moms for Liberty types are already doing that. And then of course you can always volunteer. It's super fun to be on a school campus and see all the cool things that are happening day to day. All right, let's see what else we got here. One sec. So guys, we're the enemies from within. Yeah, that's who he was talking about. He wasn't talking about the Timothy McVeigh types, the QAnon shamans, the Marjorie Taylor Greens. No. He was talking about all of us do-gooders. So nationally, we're talking about journalists, writers, publishers, academics. And in this case, I would include podcasters. I love Behind the Bastards and If Books Could Kill, two really good podcasts. But they talk about Peter Thiel and why he's a bastard. So they're probably going to be targeted too. And then influencers, we already saw that with Elon Musk throttling the accounts of people who had actually been able to monetize their influence and make money off of their influence. After that, you're going to see we've already seen doctors, right? Rural hospitals, many of them no longer even have maternal services, OBGYNs, because they're fleeing because of the archaic laws put forth by the GOP. Accountants, teachers in Arizona, have been demonized for a very long time. And then I would say, I step a little bit further from the article that I shared with you earlier from The Guardian. Groups like ours, groups like ACLU, Planned Parenthood has already been targeted. I saw some idiot congressman the other day who said, defund the